And to light, Rev.
And welcome back to another part of my F1 24 career mode. This is part number 11 today for the Austrian Grand Prix in our rookie debut season in Formula 1. But this is also the first episode after the 1.3 patch. This is the first patch and the one with the handling tweaks for the F1 24 game since the launch. That also comes with the AI being retrained on this new handling, so that internally might actually create better racing, but specifically also they've been addressed with making mistakes, actually having maybe the ability for the yellow flags, safety cars, red flags to come out more often, and just generally, hopefully, they're going to be actually going more wheel to wheel, at least more than we've seen so far in the series. There's also been a lot of other bugs that have been addressed, and there are still some that are yet to be addressed and will come in a later patch, I have been told. But if you guys did miss the previous episode, part number 10 at the Spanish Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one, where we had quite an unfortunate but quite impressive pirouette mishap very early on in the race, and our tyre then, front left tyre to be exact, was on fire for the rest of the entire race. But it was a great day in the office for our teammate Lando, getting his third win in the season. But in contrast to him, his stability within this team, we have got another secret meeting. And you might remember we had a first meeting with this team. It is Ferrari, of course. You know, Mercedes came to us earlier in the year. We laughed them off straight away. I mean, just silly for them to even bother trying to come to us. Who'd want to join Mercedes in this era currently? But Ferrari, you don't say no to further talks with Ferrari. It's Ferrari, for goodness sake. So now we can actually see their development, which is very interesting. This is the first time we've ever been able to get an insight on a rival AI team before we join them. But you can see we've actually got a higher success rate when it comes to our upgrades. Our average time is a little bit longer to get the upgrades on, but I reckon that, you know, kind of balances out with a higher success rate. Yes, it takes longer, but when we do get upgrades, there's a higher chance of them actually coming through compared to Ferrari, where, to be honest, that makes complete sense for Scuderia Ferrari. They just go hard and fast, and they have a few more failures along the way with the upgrades, and that very much seems quite realistic. But interesting. Now, obviously, at this stage, my mind is kind of just still learning the game, learning the car. We're still very much nowhere near the performance, let's say, of our own teammate in the same machinery. So, am I actually looking to move team just yet? Perhaps not, but I want to play a bit of havoc with the driver market and maybe tee myself up for a better contract with McLaren. You know, I reckon if we keep on talking with Ferrari, we could then go to McLaren at the end of the season and try and tee up a more lucrative contract for ourselves going into our second season of Formula 1, potentially. And also, who knows? You know, who knows what Ferrari are actually thinking? Maybe they're just coming to us because they're trying to play us off against Lewis Hamilton, who they may be looking to sign, and I hope they are looking to sign in the game, just as they have done in real life. So I'm going to play a bit coy with Ferrari and say I'll continue the talks, and hopefully McLaren don't catch wind of any of these secret meetings going on at the moment. But yeah, at the moment, just playing around with the interest. But now having a look at the championship going into this next round, after that third win, Lando is chasing after Verstappen. It's up to us, myself and him, to work as a team with the R&D to try and keep the pressure on Red Bull. The same with Ferrari, Aston, Mercedes, I'm sure, as we're all very close together in the R&D chart. Speaking of the R&D chart, that has got an update. Yes, in the 1.3 update, along with all the fixes and the handling tweaks, etc., we have got a performance update to the R&D for the entire game. The earliest we've ever got a performance update, and this brings it in line with the performance at the Monaco Grand Prix. And you can see a comparison here of the pre-patch R&D chart. This was from last episode, and now the post-patch update. You can really see the differences of where teams have moved, because quite nicely always with these update patches, they still show the actual ebb and flow of the upgrades that have already happened in your save, but as if the original game had started with the updated performance. So you can see we would have been so much closer to Red Bull this entire time, you know, if it wasn't for the pre-patch performances. But of course, that's technically where McLaren started the season, I feel. You know, it started where pre-patch is, and now it's where it is now. So in a way, we've actually had quite a nice realistic transition, in a sense, with McLaren upgrades. But in the opposite way, you know, for Kick Sauber, for example, they've been nerfed to hell, as they should be, because they weren't that good in real life. But now it's going to be a massive surprise to see them all the way at the bottom. And, you know, you can see the likes of Haas, V-Carb have got that little bump. To be fair, Ferrari, Merc, and Aston, that pack has stayed very similar. So I still think the top 10 fighting is going to be massively, massively tight. And we come to a racetrack, the Austrian Grand Prix, where historically in the F1 game and in real life, it is supremely close around the Red Bull ring, always with a time gap. So that's going to be a big obstacle. But we go through our specialists as usual and set our goals around. I just want to point out Miguel's turned back up, and not only that, he's turned back up with a McLaren top. Look, mate, I'm not going to have a go at you anymore. Clearly spooked you off last time, so you do what you want, mate. You do what you want. And right now, the good vibes are continuing in this team, because we have brought in that, obviously, engine upgrade. That did fail. Remember, we wanted it in for Canada, but it's now come in time for the Austrian Grand Prix, which, to be fair, is another engine-dependent circuit. And we have that front downforce upgrade, I think it was, to match the rear downforce upgrade we had got earlier in the season. So a little bit more front end potentially to help us out, but engine power, that's going to be a big aid around here. And that now has technically made us the best team on this grid on paper. But if you've watched enough F1 game series and career modes, you know that sometimes, all the time actually, the R&D chart actually doesn't mean a lot, because in reality, track to track, teams can be stronger or weaker, and obviously that focus for the AI drivers is a big thing. So let's go now into sprint qualifying, remember, as it's a sprint weekend here in Austria.
High up in the mountains here at Spielberg, it's time for qualifying on what will be the fastest laps of the season. Stand by for qualifying at the Austrian Grand Prix.
And we're going to dive straight into SQ3, because sprint quali 1 and 2 was a formality, and I felt like it would have just been a waste to show you guys. I don't think you guys want to just be seeing hot laps going around the circuit. We want to get to the racing action, but I'll show you the last part of qualifying, because that is obviously the most important for us to try and set ourselves for our actual grid slot for the sprint race. A lot of sun into turn 1, I must say. Blinding bit of sunlight at turn 1 Austria. I'm pretty sure the time of day is quite off, because I don't remember Austria being this golden hour shadow work through the tree lines in reality. So I feel like they need to maybe adjust the time of day. But we made it through turn 1. We navigated the rest of the circuit all right, and we come towards the line. What is it going to be for the sprint race grid? I'm hoping it's decent enough. It's decent. P5. I'll take that. I mean, look how bloody close it is. 0.075 covering the top 5. Lando only didn't get on the sprint pole by 0.027. Ridiculous stuff. But Alonso's up there showing, like I said, the R&D chart doesn't really, you know, count for much sometimes in reality, because Alonso still wrings the neck out of that Aston Martin car to get up on the second row. But then we can do some good work from P5 in the sprint race, and I'm just curious to really see now, post-patch, what the racing is like. Hopefully, it's a little bit more fun, a little bit more wheel-to-wheel action as we go to 5 red lights. The sprint here at the Red Bull ring is underway. Lando hardly gets away. Verstappen as well hardly gets off the line. It's Fernando Alonso and Perez that have stormed through. We also had a horrendous getaway. Our reaction time was god-awful off those 5 red lights. We're going to have to wake up a little bit for the Grand Prix later on in the video. But for now, we're down to P6 then. But Fernando Alonso leads this race. Can you believe it then? Once again, he's basically just ignored the patch. He's just thought, oh, we're meant to be a bit slower, were we? No thank you. And he's ahead of both Red Bull cars. Lando having to defend against his old pal Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, as him and Verstappen really got a shocking getaway off the front row and just went backwards, just like myself, as we now watch these two still going at it then. So almost immediately we're seeing better wheel-to-wheel racing, closer action, and hopefully as we go on through the race, a little bit less clumping and grouping around between the drivers as Perez and Verstappen are still going hammer and tong as Verstappen tries to get past Perez. He's unable to, and we did actually push Sainz through that last corner as we were so much quicker, as we're all getting caught up in Perez being one big bottleneck in this, because look at Alonso, he's not even on the mini-map anymore as he's pulled away quite a fair bit, but now DRS activated and we can all start to maybe have a go at each other. We go defensive versus the Ferrari and we're going to solidify the P5 for us just behind Lando. But at the moment, you got to say both of us underperforming a little bit compared to what the car should be doing, as there's an engine failure for Carlos Sainz. He's been overtaken and now he's going to be overtaken by everyone in this race. And of course, the first engine failure for an AI car after the patch to fix AI not having failures. Of course, it's a Ferrari. Unbelievable. Ferrari, we are checking. Yep, you're the first failure of the entire game. That is quite peak for Ferrari, but it is great news for us. Maybe a little bit less pressure. I mean, Leclerc's still there, and he set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, so we're looking to get a move on, but we're behind Lando, who's trying to force his way past Sergio Perez. You can see the blue icon ahead of Lando and Perez's name. So, you know, two drivers we're very interested in at keeping an eye on. Obviously, Perez, our championship rival, just Lando with the teammate rivalry, but he's pulling away a bit, Lando is, and Leclerc is pressurizing us now as he has DRS. He's pulled out to the left-hand side to try and make an overtake. Lando's got an engine failure now. It's all kicking off. It's maybe that time of the season where the engine components for various drivers are wearing out, and Lando's has got up in smokes, as well as Sainz.
Keep going for now,
I can't, it's broken! It's off.
Pause for 4 seconds, go to P0. I'm so sorry.
Absolutely devastating for our teammate Lando Norris. I mean, gutting more so because of the momentum he would have had off the back of the win in Spain. And unfortunately, that engine failure might just be a bit of a stumbling block now in his charge versus this man. The inevitability, maybe, as he now goes for a move on Fernando Alonso. Alonso's been leading for 6 laps, but now the Dutchman is into the lead. They have the Red Bull ring in the Red Bull, shock horror. But Alonso will come back at it. Maybe there's hope for us yet, as Alonso round the outside. Perez just watching this fight at the moment. I beg he gets involved, because all three of them could slow each other up and then we could get maybe involved in the podium fight for the sprint. But right now Alonso is doing God's work here of defending. That Red Bull is relentless. Max Verstappen, we know, is relentless, and he goes back down the inside. This one just before the last 2 corners in sector 3. The Red Bull's through. Perez might even have a go now, as he's kind of that side by side with Alonso, but Verstappen is now free, and now Alonso has to maybe defend Perez. But we have closed up. We've brought Russell and Leclerc with us, basically, in a bit of a DRS train. We can see Alonso going for the repass on Verstappen. Perez still sitting here like a lemon, and he's basically half asleep, because we now have a bit of a snap at the rear, and we look to maybe make an overtake. Perez with DRS open, where we used a lot of battery, because I knew this was maybe the only time to overtake him. We've gone deep. Perez comes back at us, though. We understeered through that entire right-hander, but now neck and neck through the exit into the next left-hander. It is oh so close. We get the elbow out, though, and Perez is forced to back off, so much so that Russell is through into P4. That's good from us, obviously, versus our championship rival in terms of the points. It's important that we try and beat Perez, obviously, to gain more recognition in our career at this point so early on in the career. 10 races done. This one, number 11, once we do the full Grand Prix. The sprint doesn't really count, I don't think, but ahead, look at Verstappen, pull out for the move again. These two going hammer and tong into turn 1, and this is going to invite us into this fight now. We've brought Russell along for the party, just under 2 laps to go, and there's a sense in the air that things could still change yet. Verstappen leads, Alonso second, we're in third. Verstappen locks up! Big puff of smoke from the Dutchman, and he's cracked under pressure. Alonso just as relentless as Max, and Verstappen has made an error, and we've got through into second place. We go very defensive to the inside to block off Verstappen, and we're opportunistic. We were there at the right time. We did well, actually, to not even tap Alonso's rear wing, because we very much could have just been brake checked by the Spaniard very easily, because the last thing I was thinking was Verstappen was going to lock up right there and then at the apex. So now we find ourselves in second place, but could it be more? We fake to the inside, go to the outside, dive it round. We've gone far too deep though, and we get a bit too overexcited in the brake zone, and Alonso remains in first place. That was a bit of a rookie move from me, but can we maybe make up for it? No, we're too far back to make an overtake. Alonso's locked up. Oh my, he's in the gravel! He's in the gravel! Oh my word! On the last lap, we're up into first. Verstappen comes at us though. The Red Bull, it's so good in the corners. We're making contact. We're side by side. Verstappen's got us, but we have more battery. He's got nothing left in ERS. We have everything left as we dive down the inside now with hot lap mode engaged. The rear end wagging away, but we somehow wrestle the car through. P1.
Are you not entertained?
What a radio, what a radio. That is such an apt radio. Are you not entertained? First mini race after the patch, and it's an absolute banger. We're not completely back. I think we need to see how the full Grand Prix goes with heavy fuel and in the fuel loads and how that affects tyre wear, tyre temps, ERS, etc. But based off that sprint, yeah, the AI are in a much better place than what they were pre-patch. But what a crazy sprint. Engine failure for Sainz, for Lando. The mistakes from Verstappen and Alonso, crucial to that. And we just remained calm and kept it going. P1, it's another sprint win in Formula 1. Doesn't count as a real win, though, in my opinion. So just a one Grand Prix win at the Monaco Grand Prix still. But it's still something to be happy about. But now we have it all to do, because now we've got the proper stuff. We've got proper quali and then the Grand Prix.
High up in the mountains here at Spielberg, it's time for qualifying on what will be the fastest laps of the season. Stand by for qualifying at the Austrian Grand Prix.
It's time for the full qualifying then for the actual Grand Prix, where all the big points are on offer. So this one is a lot more important than sprint qualifying. But just like in the real sprint weekends, that can cause a bit of chaos, you know, moving from session to session, the track evolving, of course. But like in sprint quali, I won't bore you with the motions of Q1 and Q2. I'll show you the ladder, though, going to the top 10 shootout, because myself and Lando looking strong, checkerboard a Red Bull McLaren. But a V-carb car of Daniel Ricciardo has made it into the top 10 shootout for the first time, just showing the performance bump for the Visa Cash App RB team. Clearly working well, because Sonoda was also up there, albeit knocked out, but he was up there. So definitely a bit of a different outlook on the tail end and midfield pack of this F1 grid. But at the sharp end, we're hoping it's going to be more of the same from sprint quali, the sprint, to this qualifying, as we're now on our one and only flying lap, because we only have one brand new set of soft tyres to use in the top 10 shootout across the line. Oh no, P6. Oh God. What on earth has gone on there? That is, that's frustrating. And Lando, of course he's on pole. Honestly, I love and hate having Lando as a teammate right now in the game, because he's just a bit too good for me to go up against as a rookie, you know, because 7/10 off our teammate. That is, I know the media, in real life, the press, the paddock will be giving us a bit of rest, considering it is our rookie debut, but the recognition system may not be. But annoyingly, we just lost a bit of pace into Q3. Even if I did my Q2 lap time, which was quicker, by the way, it would have only got me up to P4 maximum. So others just found way more time going to that next session. I guess that comes with experience, I guess, you know, with Lando, Verstappen, Perez, all finding those extra few tenths, basically. So P6, to be fair, it's only one less position than we managed in the sprint, but I was hoping for more just off the confidence we would have got from the sprint race, basically. But, you know, Lando's clearly put his engine failure aside and just gone on and tried to make up for it, basically, with the best position possible. Pole position for him tomorrow. Let's go to the grid.
Good afternoon and welcome to Spielberg and to a circuit that in one form or another has held every Austrian Grand Prix in the championship except the very first back in 1964. It was at this race that John Watson lost a bet and his beard when he took Team Penske's only F1 victory in 1976. If anything, the stakes are even higher today, with 25 points available for victory and a crucial advantage in the championship fight. It's one of the shortest laps on the calendar today then, with 7 rights and just 3 lefts, making up the 10 corners of this high-speed circuit. Turn 2 is barely a corner at all. They'll be flat out through there, a left-hand kink into the uphill braking zone of Turn 3. Turns 1, 3 and 4 are all potential opportunities to overtake. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday and he'll start from pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Russell, Leclerc and McLaren, Fernando Alonso, Ricciardo, Hamilton, Stroll, Tsunoda, Albon, Gasly, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Bottas, Joe, Sainz, Magnussen and Logan Sargent. And now it's time to head down to the track. And alongside me a man, well, what more can I say? But he's a legend. Anthony Davidson. Now, Ant, you know us. Professionals as we are, we don't listen to rumours all the time, just some of the time. And in the case of this driver, I think we were right to listen to those rumours because they were true. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, for them, you know, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, you know, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, you know, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
So we had a lot of fun in the sprint race, but now this is the real test of the AI tweaks and seeing how far we still need to go maybe to get back to the really great AI we had on the F1 23 game, you know, with heavy fuel now, seeing how that ERS management is and the training as well. And also, for me specifically, the tyres were a major issue in the last episode. And I'm hoping that will also not be an issue. To be fair, in the sprint, we hardly had to look at our engine temps or our tyre temps at all. So that's quite promising, and I'm hoping the same here in the full Grand Prix. As we start to rev up our engines and look towards 5 red lights for the full Austrian Grand Prix here at the Red Bull Ring. Lando on pole, lights out, and away we go. And Perez does not go anywhere off the line. Can we overtake him straight away? Our championship rival, who's actually hit us on the inside there. What on earth are you doing, mate? Perez just barges back through. We had actually fully passed him, and he just scrapes along our side pod to re-overtake us. We now get boxed in by him and the wily old fox that is Fernando Alonso. Hamilton having a little go at us as he's having to defend Daniel Ricciardo in the Visa Cash App RB. Is Lando Norris. Well, he was down to second place. He's trying to retake the first place he had, but Verstappen puts on the pressure immediately, looking to make up for the loss that he had in the sprint. But of course, Lando looking to make up the loss in the sprint of the entire race itself. himself with his engine going up in smokes, and I assume with all new components going well now and looking to remain in the lead, which he is for now. But we go back to our POV, lap 2 now, DRS available, and we're looking to repass Sergio Perez. Big dive bomb from so far back. Perez comes back and there's more contact. We squeeze him out. We give him the Verstappen treatment on the outside there, but Perez remains with his foot planted to the floor. It's inches away from making some race-ending contact there on the exit, but now we get the elbow out. Perez squeezed onto the gravel. That was a very 2020 style move I made. That year, so many drivers were pulling off that move, getting the elbow out and just completely running the driver out of room. So we took a little bit of a leaf from that playbook there. Good to see myself and Perez getting into the spirit of this, in-game rivalry we've been given. And with the aggression levels that Perez has been showing, it's almost like he's actually aware of that rivalry, which would be pretty good if that was a thing in the coding. As Verstappen now tries to get into P1, Lando really stern with his defense. A bit of contact made with the tyres rubbing against each other. DRS open for Verstappen though, and that will get him up into first place, and Russell might even try to make a move on the McLaren. Lando might find himself down in P3. Russell being very opportunistic there, trying to get a second place, but in the end Lando will at least remain in second place. This is actually somewhat of a replay or a rewind in time, because this was actually what was going on whilst that battle was going on. You can see up the road those three fighting. We were having to defend Hamilton as we just got caught out a little bit on medium ERS. So I can say there are still a few little glimpses here and there, I feel, of the AI still being way too good with their management of ERS, but it's not as harsh around here. But that might just be the track, track to track, because even in the past, Miami, for example, has been a difficult one for the AI being so OP out of corners, for instance. So I'm not too sure. We're going to have to see over the course of the next few episodes how that ERS management is. I still think it does need a tweak. But we now focus back on the top five. Verstappen P1, Lando chasing after him. Maybe goes to the inside. No, little bit of a dummy, and that's going to dummy Verstappen into a massive lockup and mistake. The Dutchman fully off circuit comes back in P5. We have an opportunity again to overtake Verstappen when he's slow. Hamilton getting involved as well. He went to the right, I went to the left. Alonso very slow into the next corner, so we had to take some avoiding action there. But what a madness of a lockup. There's so much tyre smoke. Into turn 1, I had no idea what on earth was going on, but now at turn 1 on the next lap, we're going to do Lando a favour and really squeeze out Verstappen and try and offset him a little bit, and hopefully Hamilton and Perez have a go at him. We intentionally squeezed him to the inside to tighten up his line, and I'm hoping that Hamilton and Perez can start to have a go at him, because ideally for Lando's championship chase, Verstappen needs to lose as many points as possible. So now it's a real opportunity, or that was an opportunity, to try and help that along. But in the meanwhile, you would have seen there, Mark has given me an objective, and it's to go and attack and overtake Fernando Alonso, which is always promising, because Mark believes in us that we do have more pace in the tank and we do have more in this race to go. But just like the sprint race, we're now dragging the cars behind us along for the ride. Verstappen and Hamilton, they've got our DRS train, and now we've basically joined another train of Alonso, Leclerc and Russell. So now Leclerc going for a move. Russell's been doing really well just to hold up these two. And can we catch Alonso unawares? Maybe down the inside we go. At the apex we complete the objective, but it's not over yet, Mark. We still need to actually fully overtake him, as we're now in a drag race with Alonso. A little bit of overtake mode used, but trying to save battery to allow us to push away from Alonso once we've made this pass and keep up with Russell. But now on lap 10, another thing to worry about is rain. Yes, if you would have paid attention on lap 3 at some point, my engineer told me that rain was on the way, and it is here now. It is starting to fall, and for the first time in this game, we're going to maybe experience some wet weather without a glitchy race, basically. But at the moment, focusing on maybe getting the jump on on Leclerc. Russell's overtaken him. Can we get the 2 for 1 even? As we go on the outside of Russell, the Merc does really well to outbrake us though. We're still saving battery on the entry, so maybe potentially we could have used a bit more overtake mode to fully get that move done. But at least we've got the Ferrari, as he was quite slow out of that overtake from Russell, and we're up into a podium position. But we've got still so long to go in this race, 26 laps, and now the rain has started to fall, and at some point it will be intermediates. I looked at the forecast. It should go back to dry. Leclerc makes a huge error into the final corner. He makes contact with Perez, and clearly conditions getting a bit too damp for the Ferrari driver then. And that is why we've got to keep our wits about us, because it is going to get trickier and trickier to navigate the track. 2 laps later, and the rain is really starting to fall. You're seeing the droplets, you know, now settling on the camera, and we're going opposite lock into a couple of these corners. Sector 2 right here seems to be the worst of it. It seems like the weather front is coming in from this side of the circuit, and I'm really struggling for front end grip now. Alonso comes in, barges through with a bit of contact there. Fernando, no need to be so aggressive. I checked for damage. Thankfully there's none, but that was a pretty hefty hit from the Aston Martin car. Verstappen had a bit of a look at us, but we completely shut that down, because I'm trying to absolutely not let that Red Bull by, and we're going to try and reverse this overtake as we go round the outside on the racing line. Alonso compromises himself on the tighter line, and we get back to 3rd place, but we now lost time to Russell as we start to ask our engineer, is it time to switch over to Inters, because I'm really struggling for grip. Later in lap 14, drifting through into sector 2 where the weather's the worst in the entire circuit, and you can see Mark is telling me it's a bit touch and go, but I'm reckoning for me it's go. It's time to go onto the Inters, and there you go. DRS disabled. Absolutely, for me, in my opinion, when it's DRS disabled, it's time to come in, and Alonso is thinking the same. Russell's thinking the same. Lando, unfortunately, he's already gone on for another lap, so I'm really hoping for his sake that it won't affect him too much. Hamilton continues on because he doesn't want to double stack behind Russell. Interesting. The 2 Red Bulls are fine double stacking as they're both in now. We're in for the intermediates, and everyone will thankfully change on to Inters. So no glitching today with the tyre choices, and the spray is being kicked up by the Inters, and it is the right tyre for the right conditions. As we've actually jumped Alonso. We've jumped Alonso. Very good stuff from the McLaren pit crew there. We have jumped the Aston, and we're back into what will be a net 3rd place behind Russell, who is now nearly 2.5 seconds up the road. About the same gap, to be fair, actually, as we enter the pit lane, as we now close up on Zhou Guanyu. And this is, you see, remember this situation in Imola where they just didn't look that slow. Zhou Guanyu there crawling through. That's a bit more like it. No grip on those dry tyres. The same for Hulkenberg. Now you really see how bad that glitch was in Imola, because they weren't this slow in Imola. They weren't crawling around. They were still going at a pretty good speed to say they were on a wet track and dry tyres. As we now go on through in this phase of the Grand Prix, and it gets wetter and wetter. Verstappen looking to make a pass on Leclerc. Leclerc's actually managed to jump Verstappen then in this entire pit stop situation. Remember, Leclerc lost about 4 positions with that mistake he made. So somewhere Verstappen's made some sort of error perhaps, and Leclerc's got back ahead of him. Now Leclerc makes another error, and you can just see how treacherous these conditions are for everyone, because you're seeing loads of drivers making mistakes, which is great to see, especially in these sort of conditions where you would expect a few little errors to creep in there. So Leclerc now in a sandwich behind of Hamilton, Verstappen ahead. Ricciardo P8 in the Visa Cash App RB car. He's ahead of Perez, you know. That's a little bit awkward. You know, Perez already really underperforming for the Red Bull team. He's behind me, a rookie in Formula 1 in the championship, for goodness sake, and he's now behind Ricciardo in this race. Meanwhile, Sainz, by the way, We haven't seen him all race. So he had that engine failure in the sprint. Well, his bad luck continued in the normal qualifying because he got knocked out in Q1, I believe, or had component changes and penalties to come with it. Whatever the case, he's been down and out of this race and is still just stuck in the traffic. Meanwhile, in the opposite end of the spectrum, Lando Norris is loving life, dominating this race now, nearly 4 seconds ahead of Russell, who is now only 8/10 ahead of me. It's still tricky out there as we lose the back end, so we have to really keep our wits about us, but we are finding a groove with this car on the inters, and we are starting to close up on Russell and pull away from Alonso, which is very good news, because if we could somehow get Russell, this would be a 1-2 for McLaren. That would be incredible in a full Grand Prix. We've done it at the sprint in China, but this would be a real testament to the hard work we've done this season as a team if we could get a 1-2 in the Grand Prix proper. But only 2 laps later, and the situation with the weather in this race has rapidly changed. It is bucketing it down with rain, and you can see on the radio, there's talk of there maybe being a switch for the full wet tyres. So we might be going to the blue wall full wets before maybe going back to dries, according to the forecast at the start of the race, as we understeer nearly off circuit. This track is getting wetter by the minute, but then at the same time, I asked my engineer again, and he says the rain's going to slow down and is going to stop. So it's a very odd situation. It is really pouring it down. It is maybe nearly full wets as Verstappen pits. Verstappen pits for, I think, full wet tyres. And everything is telling me it's full wet because my engineer now keeps banging on about it. He's telling me it's now worth it to go onto full wet tyres. But we also know the rain's going to stop pretty soon, and Lando actually continues on. Russell is slowing up on the inside to come in. I'm going to continue and follow my more senior teammates' lead and stay out. Lando reckons we could keep going on inters and it will eventually get back to an intermediate period and eventually dries. And I'm going to trust him. I'm going to follow him with that. And Leclerc is also thinking that. So Leclerc's thrown the dice to try and jump up a few positions. I've thrown the dice a bit to gain 1 position. Lando's actually the driver with the most to lose in this situation. And you can see it's not getting any drier right now. It's really, really wet out there. But this is the gamble because the forecast says it is going to get lighter eventually. And you know what? On the next lap, Lando backs it. He's backing the choice he's made, and he stays out. I'm obviously going to do the same and stay out with him. And it's going to be the same thing for Leclerc as well behind me. So this is actually really great to see the AI making such a bold call, and only 2 of them doing it. So there's that difference of some AI wanting to risk it and trying to go for something different, and others, going with the status quo. Really good to see that difference as there would be in real life of maybe, you roll the dice and you see how it goes, or maybe you have that confidence in yourself or that experience under your belt to know if you just long it out, you'll get back to an intermediate period. And that gamble for us has got us up into 2nd place, and I think this is going to be a cruise to the end, I hope, for a McLaren 1-2 for the first time in our set. Oh my god, no! No, no, no! You're kidding me. You're absolutely kidding me. Oh my god. No. No, man. Ah, engine failure. It's our first one as well. It's our first one of the entire season. And it's come at a point where we did so well. We did so well. We took the risk. It was paying off. It was going to be an amazing first 1-2 for McLaren in absolutely ages. Since the 2021 Italian Grand Prix, wasn't it? The engine goes pop, puff of smoke, and that is it. That is it. Game over. I mean, it's still going to be a good day in the office for our team because Lando will go and win. He's going to win a 4th race, and he's winning whilst we're walking to the back of the garage. Oh, our recognition's going to be in the absolute bin, isn't it?
Smiling faces on the pit wall then after that superb win here in Spielberg, and rightly so. A brilliant effort from the whole team.
A great display of dominance today, Crofty, by this driver. They led from lights out to the flag at the end, led every lap of the race. Brilliant stuff by them, and excited to see what more they can do in future races.
It's another big result for Lando Norris. Verstappen managed to get back on to the podium and second place, so he really limits the damage for the championship chase. It should have been us there. Leclerc should have been third. I don't know how the race ended, in the dry or inters or what, but it should have been us there, and it probably should have been Leclerc, but the simulations put Russell and Verstappen there as we get a DNF. Oh, that's a tough one to take. Such an amazing sprint, euphoria there, and then just so depressing now. This is you know what though? This is the high and lows. This is the real high and lows of a Formula 1 drive and a rookie season Formula 1. But look at that. We've gone down a rating. We've gone down to 77 because we lost focus and we lost pace. And unfortunately, that's actually because of a glitch. The other stats going down, that's fair enough, because we got a DNF, we lost positions from where we started, that's fair enough. Racecraft went down, experience went down, focus went down, awareness actually went up, because we still did some good work in that race of avoiding penalties, avoiding warnings, etc. But this pace thing is glitched right now, because the margin to fastest lap, remember in my getting fired video, was glitched to saying it was 0 every single time, so you always gained pace. Well, annoyingly, Codemasters have fixed it by doing it the wrong way now, so now it's fixed on 4 seconds, so no matter what happens, you will always lose pace stats in your career as it stands, which is kind of almost worse than at least gaining some. So yeah, this is actually, for the next few episodes, until another patch comes in to fix that, we're going to have some amazing races to make up for the pace being glitched in order to actually grow our driver, in terms of overall rating and meet ultimately our contract target. Remember, of 80 overall, we have to meet that. Otherwise, we won't get a great contract. So, yeah, frustrating way to end it with the DNF and noticing this pace glitch. But, I mean, what else can you do, really? But, guys, if you have enjoyed the episode, because it was a thoroughly entertaining one, I hope you'll agree, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.